Today, we're going to break down this really powerful lesson in leadership. It's called the servant master.
So let's just jump right in with a question that honestly gets to the very heart of this thing. What if true power isn't about being number one, but about putting other people first?
And that idea? Well, it's the absolute core of the lesson we're exploring. And what's cool is it's taught not through some boring lecture, but through one single, and kind of surprising, act of service.
All right, so a lesson like this, where does it even come from? Let's dig into the source material a bit.
So what we're looking at here is a lesson from a curriculum called Junior PowerPoints. It's basically a Seventh-day Adventist Bible study guide, and it's aimed at kids, in that 10 to 14 age range. And the whole point is to teach these big ideas, but through stories that actually grab your attention. And the specific lesson on our plate today?
Yep, it's the servant master.
Okay, every really great lesson has a good story behind it, right? Well, this one kicks off with this super tense argument, and it's all happening in this upper room.
And what were they fighting about? It wasn't some deep philosophical debate. Nope, it was a straight-up power struggle. The source material says they were basically arguing over who was going to be the most important, who would get the top jobs, the chief minister roles, in this new kingdom they were expecting.
And let's be clear, this was not some friendly disagreement. The vibe in the room was, it was toxic. We're talking angry, people literally competing for who gets to sit where, and they'd even stop talking to each other. Just total disunity.
So, right into the middle of all this tension, all this ambition, walks the most unexpected person to play the role of a servant.
Now, to really get what happens next, you need a little bit of context. Back then, at a big dinner, it was normal for a servant to wash the guests' feet. They were walking around in sandals on dusty roads. So, the gear is all there, the basin, the towel, but there's no servant. And since it was a servant's job, not one of these disciples who are all jockeying to be chief ministers is going to lower themselves to do it. No way.
And that's when Jesus does something that just blows everyone's mind. The lesson walks us through it step by step, which I think is really effective. 1. He gets up from the meal. 2. He takes off his outer robe. 3. He wraps a servant's towel around his waist. 4. He pours water into a basin. And 5. He starts doing the one job that every single one of his followers felt was beneath them. He starts washing their feet.
And you can just feel their confusion, right? It's perfectly captured when the disciple Peter just blurts out, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" He just can't wrap his head around it. Their leader, their master, acting like the lowest of the low.
So obviously this whole moment isn't really about having clean feet. It's the key visual, the central story that's going to help us define this thing called servant leadership. So what is servant leadership anyway? Well, according to this lesson, the whole philosophy boils down to this. A leader's number one job isn't to get more power for themselves, but to actually serve the people they're leading.
And the curriculum sets up this really stark contrast that makes it super clear. On one side, you've got the typical leader, the one everyone expects, the boss who rules over people, who gets called a benefactor. But then, on the other side, you have this completely different model, the servant leader. This is the person who acts like they're the youngest, the one whose role is to serve.
And this all leads right up to what the lesson calls the power text. It's like the main takeaway, the verse they want you to remember. And it's a direct command. It says, "I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you." So the message here is crystal clear. This isn't just a feel-good story. It's a blueprint for how you're supposed to act. All right, so we've got the story and we've got the big idea, the principle. But how in the world do you take this ancient story and make it mean something in a classroom today? Well, that's what this next part is all about. Going from story to actual service.
And that brings us to the big question for any lesson like this, right? How do you make it real for kids, right here, right now?
Well, lucky for us, the source material shows us exactly how it's done. The teacher gets the students to brainstorm and just listen to the ideas they come up with. It's not this big, abstract stuff. It's super concrete, everyday things, like sharing a pencil during a test, helping a friend who's struggling with a subject, giving food or clothes to someone who needs it, helping out your neighbors, or even just listening to and obeying your parents and teachers. You see? These are the modern-day ways of washing feet.
And the teacher in this lesson really drives that point home. This quote from the source is so important. It says that washing of feet isn't just about, literally washing feet. It's a metaphor. It means caring for each other. It means carrying each other's burdens.
So when you really look at it, the whole teaching method is this powerful three-part punch. First, you hit them with a dramatic, unforgettable story. Then you pull out the main idea, the core principle, servant leadership. And finally, and this is key, you connect that big idea to small, concrete things you can actually go out and do today.
And the whole lesson wraps up with this verse that is all about action. Think about this. It doesn't say you'll be happy if you just understand this truth. It says you'll be happy if you put it into practice. The focus is 100% on doing something.
And so, we're left with the very same question the lesson asks its students. After seeing an example like that, what does it really mean for you, for me, for any of us to actually lead by serving?